about when you're engaged, it's impossible to see the other ways around. If you have like your two hands are like a book and you have them further away from you, you can kind of see things around it. But as you bring your hands up closer to your eyes, you can't see anything else.
Welcome to another episode of Here We Grow. I am super excited today to have my good buddy John Kitchens on. So I was trying to think about kind of your intro here, and I was like, you're a coach, you're a speaker, you are essentially a mover of mountains, some would say, right?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Like
So you've dealt with some of the biggest agents like in the world, which is pretty impressive. And so today is going to be a little bit more serious podcast. I wanted to see how much value we can get from you today. And I know you're going to have lots, but I wanted to tell my story before we get into a couple of questions that I have for you. I wanted to tell my story about meeting you. And I don't know if I really ever told you this before, but it's a pretty cool encounter. So the first time I met John was at an EXP conference, and we were having drinks around the bar after the conference. This guy walks up in his board shorts and is introduced by his first and last name, neither of which I recognize. But I thought, if somebody's saying John Kit, like you're throwing the last name out there, it's somebody I'm expected to know. So I said, hey, how's it going? Whatever. And pretty quickly, like you just threw out a question somewhere along the lines of like, what are you struggling with right now? And man, I had been struggling for I was 3 years into the business when we first came to EXP, and I had been struggling to get from 20 deals to 40 deals. That was like my big goal. So for 3 years in a row, I was doing 20 units. I was so frustrated. I felt like I was banging my head against the wall. And in 5 minutes of talking to you over a mojito, you totally flipped my mentality. And from that one conversation, I focused on just those two things that you said to focus on. And in 6 months, I hit 40 units in 6 months after that conference. So not only did I hit the goal I was trying to do for 3 years, after that conversation with you, I doubled my business in 6 months. So that's like my biggest story about how much EXP has changed my life. And really, it's about you. So thank you for that. And you're a pretty dialed in individual. I don't even know if you recall that conversation because you're having so many of them, right? And John's a guy that at these conferences, I think I see you walk through the bar and people are just grabbing you in every which direction. It's hard to get 5 minutes with you. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you, brother. Over the years, you've helped us a lot. So.
And the thing is like you said, going through there and people asking a lot of questions, yet very few commit to take those actions. And I think that's where it's really that commitment, that committed growth. It really is the only way to improve. And so once you commit to take action, and you can have all of the ideas in the world, but you have to have just those one or two things that you believe or have a little bit of certainty, maybe a little bit of uncertainty, but it's a plan to overcome that big obstacle, right? That you're wrestling with. And, you admit you had just kind of bounced up to a barrier, and it's a slight distinction. It could be just a slight shift in your thinking that just kind of opens up to a whole new possibility. And, if you guys have gone through extreme ownership with Jocko, he talks about when you're engaged, it's impossible to see the other ways around. There's another kind of analogy. If you have like your two hands are like a book and you have them further away from you, you can kind of see things around it. But as you bring your hands up closer to your eyes, you can't see anything else. And so sometimes that's where we have our hands so close and we're doing something that it keeps putting us to this one barrier, and it's a blind spot. And that's where coaching, mentorship, and creating strong, feedback loops and creating a feedback rich environment allows us to kind of see what we can't see. It's the whole reveal, it's just, we're trying to, what we reveal, we can heal. And for you in that example, your hands were so close that you couldn't step back and see the other possibilities. And two, just probably just a slight distinction in your thinking, maybe a belief that you were holding on to that wasn't serving you anymore, and being able to let that go, and a new form of thinking that, provided a new direction of action that you were willing to commit to. And, Pat, there's so many ways to achieve and get to the goal. I think it a lot aligns to, self-awareness and personality, what you're really good at and what you're not. So, there's some people that are just, they love talking to people, right? They're just naturally wired to shake hands and kiss babies. And so, they have a couple of different strategies to achieve their goal versus somebody that is a little more introverted, that just is very selective in their relationships. That's really the difference between introvert and extrovert. Introvert still can get out there, but they're really selective in their relationships. So maybe a strategy for them is a deeper connection, a deeper relationship with fewer people. But we can expand upon those relationships and still achieve their desired outcome. And that's really where it starts. It starts with clarity, and it starts with the end in mind. What is the goal? And the goal for you at that time was, man, I just want to double my business. Okay, great. Well, where are you at? Where are you struggling? What ceilings are you hitting? And then let's just, mentally remove that ceiling. And here are a couple different strategies that align to who you are. And is that something you're willing to commit to? And you were willing to commit to the action, and something that, we were talking could take you, a year to double. You did it in 6 months.
Yeah, and I also think I think that's, sometimes it's about hearing the right things at the right time. I think uh had sat on the nail long enough where I'd felt that pain of like, this is what I want to do better, but there was a lack of activity, I think, as well, when I looked at it, and I was able to be honest with myself. But I think hearing you say it, it's you didn't say any brand new information. I think you said it in a sequence that resonated with me, which is half the battle. But the other thing is, I just think it was the right time too, and it really stuck with me. So one of the big things that, if, like, going back to it, and the big thing that you taught me to keep a pulse on was essentially like listings, right? Like that is the backbone
Yes.
of the business. That's something that, that's no secret, but that was the number one thing that I took away from that to keep a pulse on. What do you think is the number one metric that agents need to keep a pulse on right now?
Yeah. And I'm just looking for, because I don't want to butcher the quote. I want to, just to drive my point, and it's an old Stoic quote. I probably won't find it, but it's essentially saying, no man steps in the river in the same location twice, because the river is always flowing and different, and us as humans, we're different every time we hear something. So it's really important to understand that we're constantly flowing, we're constantly growing, and sometimes we need to hear the message multiple times before we're ready to receive it. And it's just, you haven't become the person that you need to be able to receive that message just yet. And also as humans, we need to be reminded more than we need to be told. Definitely the direction to focus around the listing side, and more so because if you want to achieve a certain, income level, especially in real estate, there are high dollar producing activities, and, working with motivated sellers is the number one, dollar per hour activity that you can do in this business. And so when we really kind of step back for a second and really evaluate kind of where we're trying to take our income level, and like, what am I willing to commit to? And you look at the listing side. Now, motivated buyers, great. Challenge in the market these days is that there's more motivated buyers than there are motivated sellers. So we're kind of in the supply and demand dilemma, and really being able to look, okay, hey, can I invest? If I invested 10 hours over here working with sellers, what would my return be versus working with 10 hours with these buyers over here? And, we've run the studies backwards and forwards, several times in different markets and different market conditions. And it's not even close to the amount of time that we invest working with a seller to get that return. Can't even come close on the buy side. Especially 100%. If you average it out. So it's all about that leverage and how do you leverage your time to get the greatest return on that time invested, right? We've all heard about return on investment, return on time, but add the return on time invested as an ROI factor to be able to pay attention to. And as far as metrics, really go, the biggest thing, Pat, obviously we can pay attention to kind of the gas gauge, if you will, in our business. And the gas gauge is cash. That's kind of our barometer. It's also kind of it's oxygen for our business. It's just like the most important thing for our bodies is oxygen. You run out of oxygen, we'll die. Well, it's the same thing for your business. That's your gas gauge. Now, what do you need to be paying attention to that's going to make sure your gas gauge is full? It's the things within your control. That's the most important thing. And mentally, where we get hung up is sometimes we get sucked into things that are kind of just smoke, right? It's not really real. It's just kind of this, that, whatever. But really get down out of the smoke. What do I need to do on a daily basis that's within my control that's going to move my business forward today? That's it. And, that's kind of one of those filters, one of those questions. Like when something happens, it's like, Pat, is that within your control? And you've got to step back and think about it for a second. You're like, no, that's not within my control. Then why are you giving it 1 ounce of energy? Like, devote your time, your energy, your effort on the handful of things that are within your control. And in real estate, it's only a couple things. It's lead gen. It's like, what are you doing to convert those opportunities to face-to-face appointments? So it's your conversations. It's the effort to have conversations. Then it's setting qualified appointments, getting face-to-face with people. Really, those are about the only things that are within your control to move your business forward. So if I was like, Pat, let's put some metrics around based upon your income goals and how many clients you need to be working with, then how many appointments do you need to be setting? How many conversations do you need to have? What are the activities required to have a conversation? And then how many of those leads and opportunities do you need? And really, that's it. Like, if I was going to pay attention to just a handful of numbers, I would have my gas gauge, my cash, and then I would have, how many leads, how many conversations, how many appointments. Really, there's 4 numbers. I mean, let's just keep it simple, right? Because it's if we can keep it simple, and we're making progress, doing simple things, then now we have a foundation to be able to grow and multiply. And that's really where we're trying to go. And people mess it up, right? They're trying to multiply and do too much. Simplify, multiply. And, it's all about the right things in the right order.
I feel like, you know what, man, I resonate with that a lot because I see, and that kind of segues into the next question I wanted to ask you too, because I see a lot of that, and the smoke kind of analogy is such a good example of, I feel like agents tend to overcomplicate this, or, they go out and they try to reinvent the wheel. I think a lot of the agents that I see come into this that, think that they're going to recreate everything. Sometimes they waste too much of their valuable time, not focusing on the simple things. I feel like that's one of my kind of, I don't want to say strong suits, but the thing that, that's helped me, I guess, is like when you guys tell me to do something, I just turn around and go do it. I'm not trying to do anything else. The one quote that I've heard I love is good artists copy, great artists steal. And it's like, somebody has already, that's the thing, with getting plugged into EXP that's been so great is like, I just watch what Jake Hinder and all these guys have done. And it's just like, I'm going to do exactly what they're doing because obviously it's working. So, I didn't have to reinvent the wheel. And I think being coachable has been very helpful. But so obviously you've dealt with, and I feel like I know what my answer to this is, but you've dealt with a whole range of agents from, beginning to experts in the business to, the seasoned veteran. What do you think is like the one X factor that differentiates kind of the, the top producers from the average agent who may be getting lost in the smoke? And I'll go right ahead and say what I think it is. And I feel like it's inactivity. I feel like that's what I wasn't doing when, I wasn't putting in the amount of hours. Once I held myself accountable to, what kind of hours I was putting into the business after that conversation with you, I really realized like I wasn't treating it as serious as I could. But what do you think? Is there an X factor or something that you see the top producers have that, necessarily the average agent might not?
Discipline. I mean, it really comes down to that and that alone. Because everything, like you said, is out there, and it's then the committed action. And when you look at anything, and I don't believe you commit and figure it out. I believe you figure out what you want, reverse engineer. Are you willing to commit and take the action for that to be for that particular, what you're in pursuit of? And so, Ryan Holiday is my favorite author. Obstacle is the way, ego is the enemy. And, his last couple of books have been around the Stoic virtues. And one was courage, which just means action, right? Having the courage to the courage to take committed action on whatever it is that you're in pursuit of. And then the second one that just came out, his newest book, is Discipline is Destiny. And what he said is courage is putting it on the line. Discipline is keeping it in line. And so you look at extreme ownership, all of Jocko's stuff, it really revolves around that, right? Being disciplined to the process and doing the things daily that you don't want to do. And that's really where it comes in. And, you just look at, how you do anything is how you do everything, right? You make your bed in the morning. You brush your teeth every day, right? You just the things that we don't even think about, but are we doing those things on a consistent basis? Because it carries over into the business. The X factor is discipline. And so everything there is there. It's available to us, but are we going to be disciplined to the process? And, you had mentioned, a lot of agents are going to come in, going to do this. That's just typical entrepreneurs getting in, and they get bored and they want to try to reinvent the wheel. Where I would tell, entrepreneurs getting in is that there is a process, but how are you going to innovate and add more value to that process? That's where you want to tinker. You want to think through the experience, the value creation, but it's still the same process. Like, don't overcomplicate it. Keep it simple.
So talking about the process and keeping it simple, another great question that I've seen you answer at these conferences was, and it's a relevant question in our business right now, because we have a bunch of agents that just got their license. Obviously, through the craze of the market last year, I think there was more real estate license registering than ever in history. But a lot of them are asking, like, what are the first things we should do? So if you're talking to a first year agent who just got their license, let's say they've only been licensed a month or two, what's the best advice you could give them getting into the business?
Yeah. One, get on a team. If you're not on a team, get on a team. And the reason that I say that and push everybody new into the business to get on a team is because you can overwhelm yourself with all of the things that you think you need to know, right? A great team is going to provide you ideas that are going to be available to you. They're going to provide proven frameworks, a track to follow, a track to run on. They're going to do some things for you. Most teams are going to create some leverage and get the back end processing, a lot of the low dollar per hour activities off of your plate, so you can focus on just the things that we talked about earlier, just the lead gen, the lead conversion, get to appointments, convert those appointments into doing business with you, showing properties, negotiating deals, right? Those are really the 5 things that you need to be spending 70 to 80% of your working time on, just those activities. And a great team is going to provide and get some of that, get all those other activities off of your plate. And then the most important thing, because most people aren't disciplined, is the accountability to hold you accountable to what you say you're going to do. And so that's the value that a real team structure provides to getting plugged in there. I think the big thing is, understanding what your goal is. How come that really is your goal? So you have some clarity around what it is that you're willing to commit to. And then, taking the training, the mentoring, and understanding of, okay, I'm going to show up every day and I'm willing to commit to the work and put in the effort required I just need to know what I need to know. What do I need to learn? What capabilities, skill sets, what do I need to develop so that I can have conversations that people want to meet with me, that I can articulate my value to people, believe that I have a process to achieve their goal, their outcome, their home sell at the most amount of money, getting into the ideal home without overpaying for it, and uncovering any hidden landmines that we're going to have to deal with as a homeowner, to how to negotiate the right way to be able for that to be true. And so that's where, Pat, I would tell people is like, get into where you can focus on the thing that matters, getting kind of your lane, obviously being a lane that expands, but being a lane to where you have that thing, the things that you don't have to worry about, because that team's going to provide that for you, and really just narrow your focus. The other thing, Pat, is, and I think this is where a great team like what you guys do, is that you're able to help them get clear on the 3 to 4 strategies that they're going to really focus on to acquire more opportunities, to, where is my business going to come from? And, trying to tackle this road on your own, most people, beyond the people that they know, but where beyond those 3 or 4 people that they know, where is the business going to come from? And so being able to have an environment, because environment is greater than our willpower. Environment drives our thinking and thought through better ideas, better ways to think, better activities. That also gives us that empowered feeling to take that committed, empowered action to achieve the results we want. And so, Pat, that's what I tell every brand new agent. It's like, you're going to overthink this. You're going to become, our survival brain is going to kick in, and it's going to be, typically flight. We're going to bail back to more comfort, or we're just going to become paralyzed. But we need to fight. We need to be able to have a plan, a roadmap to run on, to be able to just show up and execute.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Obviously, with us being on a team, and now with EXP, it's like you're a result of. I mean, this is no new information, but you are a result of the people that you align yourself with. And what I said is, the first EXP conference I ever went to, I felt like I was swimming with sharks, and I was like, it's one of those things where it's a lot harder to fail when you're surrounded by winners. Like, it's harder to lose when you're surrounded by winners. And then the other thing is, I mean, we're lucky at EXP, but we're lucky that those winners actually need me to win, which is awesome. So another one of my very first conferences, which helped me get over kind of like the hardest part. You just touched on everything of like what the hardest part is in starting out in this business, and it's rejection. And it never goes away. Like, it doesn't matter how high level you're getting, you're going to deal with rejection every day. But I had a conversation with Michael Reese, where I was sitting across the table with him. Actually, same situation, had no idea who he was. And he said, I mentioned, I forget what the question was, but he said, look around this room, and obviously it's a room full of agents. Everybody's dressed up to the nines, and everybody looks successful. And he said, do you want to know who the most successful person in this room is? And he said, it's the person who's heard the word no the most. And then he got me to write down the book, Go for No. So I went and read that, obviously. But I think that a lot of agents, every agent, and hey, me right now today, and it doesn't matter. Like I said, I don't think it matters what level you're at, but especially new agents, I think that they struggle. And this is why we have such a, high failure rate in our business, is they struggle with, I say, the example I use is sometimes it feels like you're a boxer in the ring and you are just like getting beat up left, right, and center. And, sometimes you contemplate giving up because you don't know how you're going to land a punch of your own. When agents are down and, you feel like you're getting beat up because it's a game of rejection, right? Any advice towards kind of how to keep your head up and, try to get some sort of positive result out of all the negatives that you end up having to deal with?
Yeah, I think you just have to understand, like you said, the equation of business is, business is just math. And, it really comes down to the equation, like you said, right? No's. And if you're not getting enough yeses, it's because you haven't got enough no's. And if you haven't got enough no's, you haven't made enough offers. And that's the equation for business. Offers minus no's equals yeses. And, you should be like loving loving the no's. And
Yep.
just a math equation of, okay, I got to make more offers because I know I've got a percentage of no's that'll equal to yeses. And I mean, you look at, I mean, we've all heard the analogy, like even with baseball players, right? You know, every 10 at bats, if they're Hall of Fame caliber, they're going to get out 7 times. They're going to get on base 3. And so they know that math equation to make it to the Hall of Fame as a hitter is that all I got to do is 10 at bats, 7 outs, 3 on base. I'm in the Hall of Fame if I do that for my entire career. And so it's the same thing for your business, is that it's just a math equation. Like, how many offers do I need to make? How many no's? Because this is how many yeses I need for my business to achieve where I'm trying to get it to. And so that's really the biggest thing, Pat, is just falling in love with that. Now, that's hard, right? Because we're humans. We don't like rejection. As humans, we want to be liked. We want to ultimately be loved. And so that becomes hard. And I think it just comes down to the understanding and the confidence that you have a real solution to help them achieve. The thing is that not everybody you can help, and not everybody's a real buyer. Not everybody's a real seller in this market. And you just have to talk to more people to really uncover who is your person, who is a person that you can help in today's market. And that's really what you're looking for. I think it's surrounding yourself, like being on a team helps with that. I think, showing up every day, not sticking your head in the sand, but then you want to get down to, the self-care and what matters the most. And my belief, you can't lead or coach another human until you can lead yourself first. And so what are you doing to make yourself the best version of yourself every day, right? It's the whole oxygen mask theory. It's like, why do you put your oxygen mask on first? If you're not healthy, then you are no good to anybody else around you. And that's where you have to start, is like, what are you doing to sharpen your mind? What are you doing to keep your emotions regulated? What are you doing to make sure you maintain your physical, your energy level at the highest? And then, are you being who you are? Are you staying committed to who you are and from a grounded value perspective? And it's just doing those activities on a daily basis, right? Where is, the you time, the meditation, the thinking, the silence? What is the positive reinforcement that you're reinforcing into your mind every day? What are you consuming? What are you listening to? Right? If you put trash in, what are you going to get out?
Trash out, right?
I mean, it's like driving a high performance, automobile, right? Think about putting poor fuel into that machine. How is it going to perform? And we're no different, right? It's like you are, like, you're a thoroughbred that wins the Kentucky Derby. Are you going to be eating McDonald's every day?
Probably not.
And so it's the same thing with our minds. So what's that positive reinforcement? What are you putting in there? What are you visualizing, the best version of yourself? What are you visualizing the life that you're destined and desired to have? That the exercise, right? Hitting the weights, breaking a real sweat, cardio, really pushing your body to its full potential. Like I said, what are you reading? What are you really consuming? And then, what type of process are you utilizing to get things out of your head? Some type of journaling, some type of just, really reflective time on your thoughts, reflective time on your activities, reflective times on what has happened, so you can create an awareness to make the adjustments moving forward in more pursuit of what you're trying to achieve.
That's amazing, man. You know what? Like, you said a lot of really good stuff. I hope anybody watching this took a ton of value from this. And the one thing that resonated with me so well, and like I said, sometimes it's about how you hear something, but offers minus no's equals yeses. Like that is, I have a whiteboard in my office, and that's going on the whiteboard as soon as I walk out of here. So listen, man, I know your time is extremely valuable. I appreciate you lining. I know it took us a while to line this up to make sure our schedules lined up, but I really appreciate you being on. And we got like like 2 seconds left of this camera before it gets fried. So if you want to leave how anybody can find you, if they're looking at coaching, just throw your social media or your contact info. And
yeah, Pat, we're at John Kitchens Coach everywhere. Podcast, YouTube, all social media platforms, at John Kitchens Coach. Hit us up.
Unreal. And hopefully you're speaking at one of the events coming up. And if anybody wants to come to an EXP event and have your life change like mine was, let me know. And I'd love to see you there. Appreciate you once again, brother. And I wrap up every single episode by the name of the episode, and it's Here We Grow.
Here we grow. See ya.